This is not what Phillies fans want to see. Yes, they are back in the win column, winning 9 of their last 10 after a gutsy victory over the Atlanta Braves, but at what cost? Bryce Harper left the game in the first inning with an elbow injury after taking some high heat from Spencer Strider. Of course, Spencer Strider on the mound. I want to break down exactly what this means for this Phillies team, what we know at this current point. I'm breaking this down right after the game, so no official announcements from the team just yet. Our very own Luke Arcaney in the building, getting the scoops himself, and once again, we will report what we know at this point in the game, but do want to dive into things, show you the highlights and everything else here. So before I get fully rolling, do want to acknowledge as always to make sure you guys are smashing that subscribe button. At this point in time, only 27.6% of you guys watching these videos here on Phillies Digest have subscribed to the channel. We want to get this Phillies Digest family growing as large as possible. We got a lot of great baseball to still break down, and it's some exciting stuff in the Phillies world, but unfortunately starting on a bit of a negative note today. So to jump into it right off the bat, it was the first inning that this did go down. Some high heat from Spencer Strider. Again, of course, Spencer Strider, who's starting to shape up into this all-time Phillies villain at a pretty high rate here. And you can see Harper wearing it right on that right arm, that surgically repaired arm, the throwing arm, the one that we do not want this happening to. Went down in immediate pain and was forced to leave the game right away. Now, I do want to pull up the highlight here, and I will talk through it a little bit so you can see that as it works right on the inside, that Harper drops immediately and in some pain there. Got to keep it pretty short for the sake of the highlights here. The thing that I will say, to be fair to him, I don't think this was intentional from Spencer Strider by any means. And you can kind of see in his reaction immediately walking off that he's upset with himself. And to play it one more time here, that you can see the immediate reaction from him. I don't think this was him throwing at Harper. With that said, I certainly wouldn't have minded if the Phillies had maybe taken one at Azuna a little later in the game or whatever the case may be. But nonetheless, it is a victory, and we do got to acknowledge that as such. But to stick on the Bryce Harper conversation, that he did walk immediately after the game, once again, him in some very clear pain, and we do have him walking off. The Phillies taking him for x-rays right away, and it is announced that the x-rays are negative there. So that is the good sign of things. But I will say, if we know anything about Bryce Harper at this point in the game, he does not come out of the games easily. He was very clearly in some high level of pain, and this would not shock me if this holds him out at minimum a handful of games. I mean, the takes were already flying on social media that we were seeing this means we got to trade for Rhys Hoskins if he's missing an extended period of time. I saw that floating out there. We can have the Rhys reunion discussion another day. I know our guy Luke Arcaney is very in on that conversation as well. But what we know about Bryce Harper at this current point is simply that it is a right elbow contusion and that x-rays are negative. So I would expect maybe even tomorrow, as they would probably give it a night to, fully, whether it's swell up or settle or whatever the case may be, whatever he's dealing with in there, figure out what exactly the issue is. But the concerning part about this from Bryce Harper's perspective is I'm not sure how you really full out protect this guy. They took precautionary steps to move him to first base with the intention of extending his career, and it just feels like things continue to happen to this guy. I mean, this is the third time this week that the dude has gotten hit. He got hit twice in the same game earlier this week. That just seems to be what happens with Bryce Harper. And sure, he's a little bit over the plate, and sure, he's a guy that pitchers are particularly careful not to leave one hanging over the top. But it is really frustrating that this just continues to happen to him. But nonetheless, do want to acknowledge the victory as well. Don't want to keep it all negative, especially when we don't have anything directly to panic to. Hopefully we do get a full injury update and it is not close to fearing the worst. The fact that it is negative, the x-rays were negative, is an incredibly positive sign, but would not say we're entirely out of the woodworks yet. Again, we don't see Bryce Harper just leave the game willingly very often, and he was down and out for the count right after this happened. But to talk about the game as a whole, do want to acknowledge a gutsy 2-0 victory by this Phillies team. And not really a hero of the game. I will point to the pitching staff as the guys I'll probably mostly highlight for what I thought was notable for things going down here. The first run that they scored was on a nice double by our guy, Max Kepler there. Nice to seeing him come a little bit into form. It was a 1-0 game for most of this matchup before the bottom of the 8th inning here, where the Braves just walked in and out of the run, loaded the bases with 2 outs. They had bases cleared, 2 outs, picked up a couple hits here. Bohm hit one first. Castellanos, JT managing to be the guy that walks in, which had to feel good for JT, who's had some real struggles there. But I do think the story of this game, it is the pitching staff here. Ranger Suarez, man, 6 innings strong, just 4 hits allowed, 103 pitches. He had 88 pitches after the 5th inning, and I thought Topper was going to pull him then, but ultimately he stuck him out. His ERA down to 2.97. That is now 4 Phillies pitchers in the top 20 in ERA in the National League. That's impressive stuff there. And I got to say, the Ranger Suarez conversation, I love him. He's up there among my favorite Phillies on this team. I think that dude is going to get a bag this summer, and I unfortunately don't think it is going to be from Philadelphia here. When you think about how crowded this pitching staff is, find a hard time believing that they're going to invest even more money if they're already paying Aaron Nola, giving Christopher Sanchez a contract, trading for Jesus Luzardo, obviously having Zack Wheeler still around. This strong belief in Andrew Painter. There's just only room for so many guys, and this isn't even factoring in a player like Mick Abel, who obviously showed what he can do here. I love Ranger. I do hope I'm wrong about this. I would love to see nothing more than him continuing to play in the red pinstripes there, but it does feel a bit like the writing is on the wall. I mean, he agented up with Scott Boras, who is going to get every penny that he can, and Ranger should at this point in his career. This is his chance to get that big-time deal, but it will break my heart when we get to that point. But nonetheless, let's enjoy what we're getting with Ranger Suarez currently, who I do think is going to continue to be a huge part of this Phillies team throughout the duration of the season. And to look beyond that, some pretty lights out stuff from the bullpen, which is really nice to see. Really, the three high leverage guys that the Phillies have to count on following the Alvarado suspension there. This is the order that you wanted to go against a good team in the National League in the Braves, who have bounced back very rapidly from their slow start to the season. Orion Kirkring, pretty lights out stuff. Matt Strahm, no hits allowed, and Jordan Romano shutting things down. Took just 11 pitches to get out of the jam. I know it's still at 7.65 there, but good to see the ERA at least moving in the right direction for him. It does feel kind of hit or miss with Romano, but he's been way more hit than miss lately. We got to give him the flowers as much as we give him the critique. So this is exactly what the recipe that you kind of hope for from a pitching staff perspective. I mean, letting up no runs is no joke against a team like the Braves, and I do think that is something to hang their hats on. This is 9 out of the last 10 that the Phillies have won. They've won 70 of their last 100 at Citizens Bank Park, and always nice to kick a little NL East rival while they're down a bit, as they did with this matchup with the Braves there. So all in all, a solid day, but I do think we got to acknowledge and wait a little bit with bated breath for what the overall outcome with Bryce Harper. Never great to see him like this, and to kind of brush over or acknowledge what Harper is doing this season, that he is shaping up into a pretty excellent year. He's got 8 home runs, 33 RBIs, a .372 on-base percentage, has walked 33 times with 54 hits across his opening 202 at-bats, only struck out 42 times, which is pretty respectable over that rate. There was a lot to be made about Bryce Harper having a slow start to the season. He's just fine. He's Bryce Harper. He's performing like Bryce Harper. He's exactly who the Phillies need him to be, and he better not be injured, man. So let's continue to send some good vibes out in the atmosphere. Hope that there is nothing seriously wrong with Harper. Very clear that the Phillies are taking this serious. The fact that they did usher him off the field, get those x-rays right away. And again, we don't see Harper in that type of pain very often. So sending good vibes that this is nothing serious. I do probably think he at least misses tomorrow's game or a handful while he, at minimum just rested if it is a bruise or whatever the case. But the biggest thing we should be hoping for is no sign of major injuries. So sending those good vibes out to the uniforms, or out to the universe there. Shout out to the Phillies for picking up another win and looking like they're really kind of finding their stride on this season overall. They're going to get tested a bit more in these coming games. They got a series coming against the Cubs. Obviously, the Braves are legitimate as well. It has been sort of a cakewalk schedule over these past few weeks. Time to turn it up a gear, and I do think that's what this team needs. They got to be challenged a little bit, and I do think they will rise to the occasion. We're starting to get a feel for what this team's identity is, and maybe they are shaping up to the exact team they designed to be. So once again, send those good vibes out to Bryce Harper in the universe there. One more time, do want to make sure you guys are subscribing as always. That only 27.6% of you guys watching these videos so far have subscribed. So come join the party here at Phillies Digest. Drop your comments below. Let's get a Bryce Harper prayer circle in the comment section. Let them fly in the comments below. Drop a like on this video, and I'll be back talking with you next time. Peace.